All right, completing the square. So, to complete the square, this is another way we can look at quadratics, and we can solve quadratic equations in this way, particularly if they can't be factorized. It'd be a nice way to do it. But there's something unique to notice about it. But before we do that, let's go through the steps. The steps are as follows. First of all, make sure that your coefficient of x squared is 1. Make sure that it's 1. Find half the coefficient of x. Once you've got half of the coefficient of x, use it to complete the square, then subtract the squared coefficient of x from your constant at the end. All right, so we know that a quadratic, normally a quadratic equation, or let's just say an expression for now, normally looks like the form ax squared plus bx plus c, where a is your coefficient of x, your coefficient of x squared, b is your coefficient of x, and c is your constant. They're all numbers. All right. Now, something pretty unique to notice here with our quadratic. We'll come back to that in a second. Let's go back round to what we were doing here. Now, I would expect that as you're looking at this, you are someone who would recognize that this is the same as x plus a times x plus a, because the power is 2. And then when you expand the bracket, you would generally use first number times first number, then the outer numbers, then the inner numbers, then the last numbers, thereby giving you an answer of x squared plus xa plus another xa plus a squared. For those people who are looking at it and wondering, well, where did that come from? X times x is x squared, x times a is xa, a times x, xa again, and a times a is a squared on the end there. All right, finally, let's simplify it. So basically, it means that we've got x plus a squared being equal to x squared plus 2xa plus a squared. So here, straight away, if you're wondering where the 2xa came from, I just added that xa and that xa together, which I can do. Now, keeping this same form, I'm going to bring this a squared on that side over here, thereby giving me x plus a all square, take away that a square, is equal to x squared plus 2xa. All right, and what I've done is basically quickly ran through what it means to complete the square. We're therefore saying that everything over here, where you've got a coefficient of x squared and 2xa, is equal to all of this. Now let's see what patterns we can see straight away. We can see straight away that in this bracket I've just got a. Well, if you think about it, the coefficient of x, I will just literally write this on the side over here. I'll put it in a different color. This here, the coefficient of x, is really 2a times x, which means that 2a is my coefficient. Now look at it carefully. I've got x squared and I've got 2a times x. In the bracket, look at what I've got. I've got x from my x squared, and I've just got a. Now a is really a half of 2a, because half of 2a is 1a. And on the end, I've squared that 1a and subtracted it back out. So that's basically completing the square. So I've completed the square. All right, let's move on to looking at some problems. Here is our first problem. So the first thing that we need to do is make sure that x squared, the coefficient of x squared is 1. And in this case, it is 1, because if you can't see a coefficient, the coefficient is 1. If it was 0, it wouldn't be there. Okay, now let's go through solving this following the rules that I've shown you on the previous page. Well, since the coefficient is already 1, I can go and start completing the square. Just basically look here and there. The coefficient of x is 4. So my first job is find half of it, and then I'm going to add that back in. So I'm going to now get x squared plus 4x and plus, inside the brackets, half the coefficient of x. Well, half of 4 is 2, and I will square that, minus 7. And this new thing that I've introduced here, I have to subtract it back out from the constant, so minus 2 square. So basically, if you really think about it, with a plus 2 square here, minus 2 square here, basically because they're in the same equation or the same expression, they're there but they're not really there, because this take away that leaves you with 0, which brings you back to what you've had before. But let's carry on. So here I'm going to complete the square. So the same thing with the half the coefficient of x and the x square. I'm not going to now use that to complete the square. So I'm going to say x plus 2 all square. So this is now this x and that 2 all square in brackets. I notice I didn't put the square with them there. And that is equal to minus 7 take away 4, because 2 square is 4. So finally, my answer now will be x plus 2 all square minus 11. Alright, and if you want to, so this is my answer. I've completed the square. I should use this opportunity to say to you now that whenever you see this in an exam, it's highly unlikely that they're going to say complete the square. They'll most likely say turn this expression into this form, x plus a plus b. And if x squared has a coefficient, well then the a might be outside here. So that's basically what they might say, and you need to know that it means to complete the square. Anyway, I was about to say, let's prove that our answer is correct. So if I expand all of this, it should give me that back, okay? Right, let's go. I'm going to cut some shortcuts here because of time. So expanding the brackets will give me x squared plus 4x plus 4. And then I've got that minus 11 on the end. If you want, you can do the bracket times itself and prove to yourself that you're going to get that, okay? So x squared plus 4x, well, 4 take away 11, should give us minus 7, which brings us back to what we've had before. So I know that this is therefore correct. All right, let's learn quickly. Here I've got another problem. If you want, you can pause the video and have a go for yourself right here, and then see where we go. But I'm going to go straight ahead and work this out. So the first thing I need to make sure is that my coefficient of x squared is 1, and at the moment it is not 1. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to factorize the whole thing. So I will bring 2 outside the bracket, and inside the bracket I'm going to have x squared plus x over 2 minus 4, and I've basically factorized the whole bracket there. So I've brought the 2 outside. If you want double check, you're going to see that 2 times x squared will give me back 2x squared. 2 times x over 2, or a half x, will give me back x because the 2's will cancel out. And 2 times minus 4 is going to give me 8. Now that the coefficient of x is now 1, I can carry on completing my square using all the techniques I've shown you from before. So I've got 2 there, and then I've got x square plus, well, the coefficient of x is now a half, so a half of a half is a quarter. So now I've got x over 2, that's a half, plus a quarter square minus 4, and because I've just introduced something new into the expression, I need to subtract it back out on the end, so that's minus a quarter square. Alright, so there we go. Everything's looking pretty good so far. So I'm just going to use this now and that to complete the square, bearing in mind that I have got a 2 on the outside here. And then in bracket I'll complete the square, x plus a quarter, all square. And then now I've got a quick little job of working that out. If you want, you can punch it in your calculator just to work it out, or you can just do some mental arithmetic by squaring a quarter. In any case, once you worked it out, you're going to get minus 65 over 16. We still got this 2 hanging out outside here, so let's bring it back into the expression. So we're going to have 2x plus a quarter all square minus 65 over 8. And now we've finished. We've completed the square, and that is done. On the next page, I have got one where it's actually equal to 0. So now it's no longer an expression, it's an equation. What I suggest you do now is probably have a quick pause and see if you can take a head start in completing the square for me. Okay, the first job is to make sure that your coefficient of x is 1, and right now the coefficient of x squared is 1, but the coefficient of x squared is now 5. If we bring 5 outside, we're going to have just a 1 there now. 2 will go over 5, becoming 2/5. So if you multiply back out, you should get that. And 1 will go over 5, becoming 1/5. And if you multiply 5 by 1/5, you get back that 1 there. All right, can you remember the next step now? Okay, so I've gone ahead and done the next step. So the coefficient of x is 2/5. So we find half of it, which is 1/5. And then we square it. And the same thing that we've introduced here, we subtract it back out from the end there. All right, I'm going to stay with you through the rest of this now. So we're going to complete the square. So this 5 is still on the outside. And we can complete. We got our x squared, we got our 1/5 square there. So in brackets, x plus a 5th, all square. And then we just need to work this bit out on the end, which works out to be minus 6 over 25, and that's equal to 0. Bearing in mind I kept my equal 0 all the way through because this is an equation. Okay, we need to solve it, which means we need to find the 2 answers for x. Okay, let's bring this down now to complete the square. So multiply with the 5 outside gives you 5 x plus a 5th all square minus 6 over 5 is equal to 0. Okay, now we've completed the square, certainly on the left hand side, and on the right hand side we're going to now proceed to solve this. Okay. And if you remember your basic arithmetic, the first thing you should do is bring that on the other side, and then we're going to divide by 5. So first step we're going to have is 5 into x plus a 5th all square is equal to 6 over 5. I tend to keep the fractions because they make life a lot easier. Okay, so that goes over, it becomes positive. Then my next step is to divide by this 5 to get it out of the way. And once I do that, I'm now going to get x plus a fifth all square is equal to 6 over 5. Well, divided by 5 is the same as multiplying by a fifth. So I'll just put this in red over here to basically say that this is going to work out as 6 over 25. Okay, so when you divide by 5, you're basically multiplying by a fifth. Okay, now my next job is now to get rid of this square up here. And because this is a quadratic, we have to consider the fact that we will get two answers for this. Okay, we need to get two answers for x. So my next job now is to make sure that I square root the other side to get rid of that square. So now I'll end up with x plus a fifth is equal to plus or minus the square root of 6 over 25. And that's basically where we get to now. Okay, the plus or minus that we've got here is where we're going to get our two answers from, because one answer will be positive, the other answer will be negative. My next job is to bring this 1/5 onto that side, thereby turning it negative. So I'm going to carry on my working out just in the corner here. Once you bring that 1/5 over, we're going to have x is equal to minus a fifth plus or minus the square root of 6 over 25. Okay, and now we're done. We've got our two answers, and in case you're wondering, but I can't see two answers, I'm just going to show you where the two answers are. The very first answer, I'll call it x1, is equal to minus a fifth plus the square root of 6 over 25. If you want, you can put that in your calculator and get the answer. The second, and get it as a decimal, sorry. The second answer is going to be minus a fifth minus the square root of 6 over 25. Particularly in an exam, if they've asked you to leave your answer in exact form, it means do not round it, keep it with the square roots, don't try to bring it to a decimal. And in many cases they will ask you to leave it in the exact form. Okay, and if that's the case, then you leave it like that. Remember one last thing before I finish up. When you see one like this in an exam, they will not tell you complete the square. It's highly unlikely. They will just basically say bring it to this form. Plus b square plus c. And then they're going to tell you that a, b, and c are all constants. They might even ask you for the values of a, b, and c, where a will be, in this case, the 5, b will be 1/5, and c will be minus 6 over 5. All right, well, I hope that was straightforward. Have a go trying some of your own questions, and then see how you get on.